Okay. Yeah, thanks for having me. Thanks for coming down on Friday night. So in this class, I'll be talking about this concept called lean startup. Anyone heard of this term before? Okay, about half of you. Let me see, it's recording, right? Okay, good. This is me. You can just call me Kai if it's easier. Hey. Here's my social profile and my email. Feel free to reach out to me. Right now, I don't really have a day job. I'm working on my personal project, which is called Prerex.co. And I'm also a Evernote certified consultant, so I do productivity coaching using Evernote. And I'm trying to get into product management, which is quite hard to get in. I find it quite hard. It's quite a challenge. So I'm working quite hard on it. So for those of you who are thinking about career path, right? This is maybe a role you can think about. You can research on it, or I can talk to you more about it later. I used to be. So I've done many things in the past. I'm much older than you think. I graduated from NUS in 2005. So I'm only listing the things that are related to entrepreneurship. When I was doing computer engineering at NUS, I was in the same lab with the founder of Tware. That's why I ended up as the Chief Operating Officer at Tware. Yeah. And then because of Tware, I got exposed to this area, the block selling wire area, and then I got to know the folks at JFDI. So that's how, and going into JFDI is really the turning point for me, right? When I got a lot of exposure to innovation, to startups in the internet space. I'm very, very grateful. The startup community has been very kind to me. I felt like I was paid to do a real-world MBA for 2 years, just that I don't get a cert. So I learned a lot there. Yeah, so that's me. Just want to get to know all of you, just get a sense of who's here, like what you're thinking about. Like, just show of hands, who is thinking about running a startup? Okay, that's like maybe, okay, like 30-40%. Okay, and who is already running a startup? Okay, we have one. Okay, who is thinking about working for a startup? 3, okay. Who's thinking about working for a big company? Okay, then why are you here? how do you connect working for a big company to the things that we're going to talk about today?
I'm just curious about
Just curious. There's this misconception that working for a big company means that you cannot think like an entrepreneur. So I think even though you're going to work for a big company, it's good that you're here, because I don't think we should always promote entrepreneurship like a title, like, because I start my own company, I'm an entrepreneur. I think it's better to define entrepreneurship as a way of thinking, a way of doing things. Entrepreneurial thinking is better, and you can apply the attitude and thinking even in a big company, right? So that's great. And last question, like, if you're thinking about doing a startup or you're doing a startup, how do you evaluate if a startup idea is worth pursuing? I mean, you can just shout from your seat, just anything, like any thoughts? Huh? Number 5, how do you evaluate if the startup idea is worth pursuing? What do you demand? Okay, like market demand, right? Okay, good. Sorry? What? Dedication. A validation. Okay. What do you validate? Okay. Good.
Just to add on is people actually willing to pay for it.
Wow, we have a very well prepared crowd. I don't think I can tell you anything new. Okay.
Timing.
Oh, good one. That's a very good one. Okay, so great. Okay, here's the outline for today. I don't know whether I can finish everything. It's like things I've learned in 2 years, trying to put it in 2 hours. So I'll let you decide on the pace. Like if you have questions, you can always interrupt me there. I'll just spend more time there. And let's take this as a start of a conversation, right? Now you know me. I'll upload the slides later on SlideShare. You can put comments on SlideShare. I will prioritize my response to people who comment publicly so that I don't have to repeat my answers over again. You can email me privately, but I will lower the priority. So this is a start of a relationship. If we don't finish everything, don't feel too bad. Like we can continue with these conversations in other areas, in other channels, right? So I'll start with some innovation patterns and theories that I picked up when I was working for JFDI. It was very useful for us to evaluate if we should invest in a company, right? And then I'll introduce. This is when I introduce the lean startup concept, and I will try to connect it to the theories. And then Lean Canvas is actually a tool for you to apply the concept of Lean Startup. Like if you've read the book Lean Startup, when I first read it, it's very enlightening. It felt like the Bible, but I don't find it very actionable. I don't know when to apply it and how to apply it. So if you're doing this for the first time, it's good to have a bit of structure. But after you're familiar with the structure, you are free to improvise. Then last part is the roadmap of applying the Lean Startup method. Okay. Start with the patterns and theories. I'll try to make this as interesting as possible. So this is a very famous quote from William Gibson. Future is already here. It's just not very evenly distributed. Anyone heard of this before? Is it new? It's new. Okay, so this is a statement, right? If you agree, raise up your hand. Okay, Joe. If you agree, right? Well, wait, why do you agree?
I guess it just feels that the way that technology has been penetrating into the general population is not evenly distributed in a sense, because there are people who are like the range of technology is a wide spectrum. So there are people who are very well adapted to technology, and someone who is very at the front edge of technology, who are already doing their daily life. Take for example, let's say Bill Gates. His house is full of like 75% can be automated, AI enabled. Right. But on everyday normal people, mass market level, people are still not very. It's not at the same level as what he's.
Well, you answered it too well. I will not pick you again because I have nothing to talk about. Anybody else want to add on to? Yeah, please.
Perhaps some technologies are kind of inaccessible
In
the sense that you have to study quite a bit about it. Usually people are too lazy like me.
Sorry?
Usually people are too lazy like me.
Okay.
They don't really have time.
Okay.
So they can't really give that into their daily lives.
Right. They can't really what? The last part. Okay. Right. How would you describe when the statement says it's not evenly distributed? So how would you describe this distribution? Is there a way to? Okay, go ahead.
From what I see, I feel that it's more like the globalization and how it's evenly distributed in different countries. To be honest, Southeast Asia actually is quite behind, like maybe 10 years behind US technology. And China market is just open up to accept this technology, like Alibaba. Yeah, so when Alibaba created, I think US has already had their internet. So I would say that it also depends on different factors like political reasons, economical reasons, things like that how receptive is the company willing to open the technology for the people. Great, this is a good answer. So sometimes it's geographical, sometimes it's social, everything come together. So this is really a very, very well-prepared crowd. So I just thought this picture is very funny. It looks familiar to you? It's one of the buildings here. The future starts here. So I was like, oh, okay, so that's the future. This is how you describe. You just put a label and then you are the future. So this is just a joke.
Yeah, I saw this when I was working in this building, and I looked out the toilet, and this is what I saw. Yeah, and then there's a joke about 21st century. Anyone seen this before? Yeah. So I think that the answer, I mean, the way to explain this distribution lies in this joke. I think it really it's a good analogy, or it's a good way to think about distribution of innovation of the future. Because I find that when people laugh, it's probably the truth. So it's a good way to think about it. Yeah. So I think we have an understanding here. It's really like it has to do with behavior, like how people use technology, how people think about technology, right? Okay. So, but you want to be a bit more technical about how to describe this distribution. I like this model it's called the innovation adoption life cycle. Okay. So whenever you have a new technology, you usually have this distribution, like you have 2 to 3% who are the innovators, who are the first one who try to figure out how to do this thing, and then you have the early adopters who's embracing this new thing, and they are trying it out even though it's not perfect. Okay, and then you have the early majority who is only willing to try when they see someone else doing it. So they try to follow the trend, right? And in reality, there's a very, very big chasm here, right? So there's this book called Crossing the Chasm. It's because of this graph. And then like for example, like if you use like let's say electronic signature, right? Then you're probably like early adopters or early majority, but you still use fax machine, and you're probably here, right? So maybe some of you might be too young to know what a fax machine is, right? Yeah. So the laggards, you know what the laggards will do? They will only stop using a technology when vendors stop supporting the technology. Yeah, like nobody's sell the parts, or no one else is using fax machine. So there's also another joke. Say the person who sold the first telephone is the best salesman in the world. Yeah. So like nobody is using telephone at a time. They can sell the first one. Yeah. So I'd like to show you a quick video. It's about 5-6 minutes. So it's a TED Talk video. Anyone seen this before? Nobody's seen. Okay. So now I get to have a break. Just watch the video. Wait, there's no sound. I need to change the sound card setting. Yeah.
I'm really excited to share with you some findings that really surprised me about what makes companies succeed the most, what factors actually matter the most for startup success. I believe that the startup organization is one of the greatest forms to make the world a better place. If you take a group of people with the right equity incentives and organize them in a startup, you can unlock human potential in a way never before possible. You get them to achieve unbelievable things. But if the startup organization is so great, why do so many fail? That's what I wanted to find out. I wanted to find out what actually matters most for startup success. And I wanted to try to be systematic about it, avoid some of my instincts and maybe misperceptions I have from so many companies I've seen over the years. I wanted to know this because I've been starting businesses since I was 12 years old, when I sold candy at the bus stop in junior high school, to high school when I made solar energy devices, to college when I made loudspeakers, and when I graduated from college, started software companies. And 20 years ago, I started Idea Lab, and in the last 20 years, we started more than 100 companies, many successes and many big failures. We learned a lot from those failures. So I tried to look across what factors accounted the most for company success and failure. So I looked at these 5. First, the idea. I used to think that the idea was everything. And I named my company Idea Lab, and how much I worship the aha moment when you first come up with the idea. But then over time, I came to think that maybe the team, the execution, adaptability, that mattered even more than the idea. I never thought I'd be quoting boxer Mike Tyson on the TED stage, but he once said, Everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. And I think that's so true about business as well. So much about a team's execution is its ability to adapt to getting punched in the face by the customer. The customer is the true reality. And that's why I came to think that the team maybe was the most important thing. Then I started looking at the business model. Does the company have a very clear path generating customer revenues? That started rising to the top in my thinking about maybe what mattered most for success. Then I looked at the funding. Sometimes companies received intense amount of funding. Maybe that's the most important thing. And then of course the timing. Is the idea way too early and the world's not ready for it? Is it early, meaning you're in advance and you have to educate?
Yeah, I'm going to pause here. So I want to do a quick poll. So there's idea, team, business model, funding, and timing. Okay, who thinks that idea is most important? Just raise your hand. Okay, nobody. Okay, who thinks the team is most important? Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Who thinks that business model is most important? 1. Okay. Who thinks that funding is most important? 1. Okay. Who thinks that someone mentioned timing just now, you right? Yeah. So who thinks that? Huh? Okay. So who thinks that timing is most important? 1, 2, 3, 4. So I think the one we had the most was team, right? Team, like 8 or 9. Okay. Let's see.
Educate the world? Is it just right, or is it too late and there's already too many competitors? So I tried to look very carefully at these 5 factors across many companies. And I looked across all 100 Idea Lab companies and 100 non-Idea Lab companies to try and come up with something scientific about it. So first, on these Idea Lab companies, the top 5 companies, CitySearch, Cars Direct, GoTo, NetZero, Tickets.com, those all became million-dollar successes. And the 5 companies on the bottom, Z.com, Insider Pages, MyLife, Desktop Factory, PeopleLink, we all had high hopes for, but didn't succeed. So I tried to rank across all of those attributes how I felt those companies scored on each of those dimensions. And then for non-Idea Lab companies, I looked at wild successes like Airbnb and Instagram and Uber and YouTube and LinkedIn, and some failures, Webvan, Cosmo, Pets.com, Flues, and Friendster. The bottom companies had intense funding. They even had business models in some cases, but they didn't succeed. I tried to look at what factors actually counted the most for success and failure across all these companies, and the results really surprised me. The number one thing was timing. Timing accounted for 42% of the difference between success and failure. Team and execution came in second, and the idea, the differentiability of the idea, the unique idea, that actually came in third. Now, this isn't absolutely definitive. It's not to say that the idea isn't important. But it very much surprised me that the idea wasn't the most important thing. Sometimes it mattered more when it was actually timed. The last 2, business model and funding, made sense to me, actually. I think business model makes sense to be that low because you can start out without a business model and then add one later if your customers are demanding what you're creating. And funding, I think as well. If you're underfunded at first, but you're gaining traction, especially in today's age, it's very, very easy to get intense funding. So now let me give you some specific examples about each of these. So take a wild success like Airbnb, everybody knows about. Well, that company was famously passed on by many smart investors because people thought, no one's going to rent out a space in their home to a stranger. Of course, people proved that wrong. But one of the reasons it succeeded, aside from a good business model, a good idea, great execution, is the timing. That company came out right during the height of the recession when people really needed extra money. And that maybe helped people overcome their objection to renting out their own home to a stranger. Same thing with Uber. Uber came out, incredible company, incredible business model, great execution too, but the timing was so perfect for their need to get drivers into the system. Drivers were looking for extra money. It was very, very important. Some of our early successes, CitySearch came out when people needed web pages. GoTo.com, which we announced actually at TED in 1998, was when companies were looking for cost-effective ways to get traffic. We thought the idea was so great, but actually the timing was probably maybe more important. And then some of our failures. We started a company called Z.com. It was an online entertainment company. We were so excited about it. We raised enough money. We had a great business model. We even signed incredibly great Hollywood talent to join the company. But broadband penetration was too low in 1999, 2000. It was too hard to watch video content online. You had to put codecs in your browser and do all this stuff. And the company eventually went out of business in 2003. Just 2 years later, when the codec problem was solved by Adobe Flash, and when broadband penetration crossed 50% in America, YouTube was perfectly timed. Great idea, but unbelievable timing. And in fact, YouTube didn't even have a business model when it first started. It wasn't even certain that that would work out. But that was beautifully, beautifully timed. So what I would say in summary is execution definitely matters a lot. The idea matters a lot, but timing might matter even more. And the best way to really assess timing is to really look whether consumers are really ready for what you have to offer them. And to be really, really honest about it, not be in denial about any results that you see. Because if you have something you love, you want to push it forward. But you have to be very, very honest about that factor on timing. As I said earlier, I think startups can change the world and make the world a better place. I hope some of these insights can maybe help you have a slightly higher success ratio and thus make something great come into the world that wouldn't have happened otherwise. Thank you very much for the great audience.
So I think we have quite a good a crowd like that have very good sense about what works and what not. Like nobody said it was the idea. Nobody said was what else. I think like a lot of people say team is very important and it came out second, right? Actually, before we even watched the video, a lot of you talk about market needs. Actually, market needs and timing is almost the same thing. So good job, guys. Yeah. So I talk about the distribution of the future using the innovation adoption curve, and then now we talk, and then there's this timing idea. So I'm trying to combine all these ideas together so that it becomes more tangible for you. Let me see how. Go to the next slide. So the timing question is basically trying to say, why should we do this thing now, right? And if you want to make it a bit more nuanced and specific about how to answer this question, is basically this is when the technology and the market insight is just starting to overlap. Right? There's the technology to do it, and there's the early group of people who's really wanting to do this, right? And you need to be very early, and you need to do it when it's just starting to happen, right? So that the why now question is trying to detect when this thing come together, and there was when I was working with JFDI, a big part of my job is to evaluate the companies that were applying to our program, our accelerator program. So we invest and coach them for 100 days. So a company will have to fill out a form, about 50 questions, and then there's this question, I call it a trick question. So I can tell you now because we're not doing the application anymore. The question is, will your idea have worked 5 years ago? Right, so that's the question. So if the startup says, yes, the idea will work 5 years ago, then that's a red flag for us, because if it worked 5 years ago, how come no one is successful yet, right? So a lot of times, the startups think that that the idea could work 5 years ago, but they think that they're only one doing it now, because it's usually because, I mean, there's exceptions, but it's usually because a lot of people has tried 5 years ago and failed. Like even from now, like they keep failing, and because they failed so fast, you don't even hear about them. That's why you think that you're the only one doing it. And because we have so much data about people sharing ideas with us, we can see that we can see this distribution of ideas, like the similar ideas that came over time, what worked, what didn't work. And but if you are a founder, you don't have this overall picture. So I mean, they will get a bit offensive when we tell them that, but that's just asymmetry of information, asymmetry, right? So the perfect answer, I mean, the best answer we want to hear is that, no, this is not possible 5 years ago. This is the best time to do it now, because over the past 5 years, something has changed. And I noticed it's changed, either from the technology side or from the market demand side. And then the follow-up question would be, we want to understand how the founder observed this change. And then we want to see why is it that he's able to spot this and not someone else, right? So that's basically the why now question. And if you want to combine it with the earlier graph about early adopters, how do you know this is the best time, right? So a good way to validate is to say, is there early adopters? Can we find them, right? And because the early adopter will stay inside this intersection. Okay, so that makes the timing question a bit more actionable. Right, you just say timing, but on hindsight, the timing is always very nice. But if you want to like go forward, it's just not that obvious, right? So and later on you'll see how all this connects to Lean Startup. Okay, do I have more? Okay, this is Lean Startup. I don't really know when we need to give you breaks. Is it here yet? Okay, let me know when the food is here. Then we can always have a break. Yeah. Okay. So now I'll start to go into the Lean Startup, and then hopefully you understand why I talked about all this like innovation theories and patterns. Just some background. This is a chart that shows the Lean Startup movement. Basically, I think I can make a fake laser pointer with this. Yeah. Basically, the term Lean Startup was made popular by Eric Ries when he wrote this book in 2008, The Lean Startup. Okay. But to be honest, similar concept already started in 2005 by Steve Blank. He wrote a book called The 4 Steps to the 4 Steps to the Epiphany. Right. So the title is not that catchy. That's why maybe it didn't take off. Very very long-winded. So it's I think it's pretty similar concept, but Eric Ries really made it very popular. And after the book is launched, there's like all sorts of conference, all sorts of other books, training, workshops, and blah blah blah. And then you have all this Lean series of books, and till now, that's how it started. And there's a link here for you to read more details about how this thing evolved. Okay. So that's the background, and I'm going to try to use my own way of defining what Lean Startup means. So let's break the word down, right? The term down. So the first word, lean, right? It means don't waste resources. Okay. A lot of people think that lean means being very cheap or being very fast. I think there's a misconception there. Like, oh, we only got 2 guys, we're very lean, right? So that's not capturing the essence of lean. Lean is don't waste resources. Okay. Or lean means we'll just launch very quickly. But if you launch something that nobody used, that's a lot of waste, right? So sometimes when I work with startups, we'll try to apply the lean concept. They get a bit frustrated. I say, I thought we're supposed to do things very fast. Why do I feel that I can't go move ahead and do the next thing and start building? And I'm always trying to get them to stop coding, stop designing, and do more user research, do more customer discovery and things like that. So here's some example. Like lean started from Toyota's lean manufacturing, right? So in lean manufacturing, you see a stack of doors lying somewhere and it's not assembled. That's waste. Okay. In software, you have specifications or design files. They are not built by the developers. That's waste. Okay. In lean startup, you build a feature, you launch a feature nobody used. That's waste. So think about the waste. Don't think about speed. Don't think about cheap. So that's generally the idea. So there's a link here for you to read more about this. Feel free to interrupt me or ask me questions, or else I find it very hard to know which part is important for you. If not, I'll just keep going. Okay. So if you and then the word startup. Okay, I'm trying to define the definition I like the most is by Steve Blank. Okay. It says that a startup is a temporary organization used to search for a repeatable and scalable business model, which means that the job of a startup is to stop being a startup, right? So it gets a little bit strange when like someone says, I'm doing a startup, and after 5 years, they still say I'm doing a startup. So obviously he hasn't found a business model. So when you have found a business model, you call yourself a company, okay? So there's a difference between a startup and a company. I like the way he put it, but of course there's many ways to describe the meaning of a startup, right? So it's a temporary organization. So for this talk, let's use this definition. Okay, and if you put the two words together, basically it means you have to figure out what's working before you run out of resources. So everything you do is about how can we figure out what's working and still conserve resource and have enough runway. Okay, if you want to think about it as a formula, basically you try to have as much learning as possible with minimum resource, right? Optimize the top and minimize the bottom. Okay, and when you are doing lean startup, okay, so this is just all the concept and mindset. You need to think like I'll call it a business scientist. Like scientists always try to come up with a hypothesis, and then they design an experiment, they collect some data, and then they learn new things, right? They fail. For them, failure is to learn new things so that they can come up with a new hypothesis, right? So Lean Startup is basically this. You're just doing experiments all the time, and your challenge, because your resource is limited and you cannot waste too much resource. Most of the time, your resource, the most expensive resource is time, right? And you basically try to design experiments and you want to minimize the loop time. Okay. So don't think about your product or your first product as a product. You think about it as an experiment. Okay, so always treat your ideas as hypothesis. When we say it's a hypothesis, it means it can be proven wrong. Okay, you want to it's very counterintuitive. Basically, you are always trying to find reasons to stop doing it, but naturally, because it's your idea, you will find reasons to go forward. So this is the counterintuitive part. Find reasons to not go ahead. Yeah. So you treat your ideas as hypothesis to test it. And yeah. So and another way is to learn like a child. Like this is how a child learns about the world when it's growing up, right? It has some understanding, and then maybe it falls down, and then it was painful, and then he was like, okay, next time I shouldn't run too fast, or when I'm on a bus I should sit down. So it's through concrete experience. You need this interaction between the child and the world, the reality. Then you have this learning. So when you are doing a startup, applying Lean Startup, you need to learn about your business as fast as a child learn about the world. So the kids learn very fast, right? So you need to go back to like the childlike mind and really have the learning as quickly, like the aggressive learning curve. And you can only learn when you are doing things. You can't learn just by reading, researching, and all that. Okay. So in Lean Startup, there's no failure. We treat everything as feedback. Everything is data. It helps you to improve your hypothesis. Okay, so this is, again, a mindset change I would like to recommend. And so why do we need Lean Startup? So a few ways to think about this. I like to use, one way is to think about this is called the CYNEFIN framework. So basically, it's trying to say that a lot of things we do, there are different situations. These are the 5 main situations. You have the very chaotic situation, complex, complicated, simple, and then you have the disorder in the center. When you are in a complex situation, basically there's no time to plan. You just do something, and then you see what's happening, and then you respond, and you keep doing it. Right? The best analogy is a pilot. Okay, when you are taking off. Okay, I would say taking off is a complicated situation. You have all this dashboard for you to read the readings, to tell you about all the environment, and then you have a set of procedure for you to take off the plane. Right? So it's complicated. Definitely not simple, it's complicated, right? But let's say the plane is in the air and suddenly one of the engine blow up. That's a very complex and chaotic situation. There's no time for you to plan and read the manual and whatnot. You kind of have to start to react to the situation, right? So which is why you can roughly draw a line here and say that startups are always operating in a chaotic and complex situations, and corporates are operating in complicated and simple situations. Okay, which is why the way you operate a startup is very different from a corporate or from a big company, right? When you're a startup, when things are chaotic, complex, you try to do pattern recognition. You don't have so much data, right? And you observe the pattern through probing, sensing, respond, or act, sense, respond. Okay, sorry, you cannot see so well here. So and this process is almost like the Lean Startup build, measure, learn loop, right? And then you try to do the loop as quickly as possible and try your best to come to this side so that you become a bit more stable, more predictable. And once you're there, you do things by data, because now everything is predictable. You have data, you have complete information, right? So we need the Lean Startup process to bring us to this region, from the complex to from the chaotic, complex, and into the complicated region. Okay. Another way to think about it is when you are doing something very new, there are two types of innovation risk. One is we call the market risk, and then basically the market risk says, should it be done? Should we do this thing? Okay? Another axis is called the technology risk. Could it be done? Right? Do we have the technology to do this thing? Okay. So if you are vision driven and you have a lot of resources, like let's say like Elon Musk today, he's rich. You probably what you do is you try to reduce the technology risk first. You do a lot of R&D, proof of concept. You reduce it, and then you try to sell it. Try to see whether the market wants it or not. This could work, if you have you are expert in this area and you have a lot of resources. But if let's say you don't really have a lot of resources, I recommend that we go for a discovery-driven innovation approach. Basically, we try to answer the question of, should it be done? Like, let's lower the market risk first because actually it's cheaper to do this. And then we try to address the technology risk later when you have more confidence after addressing the market risk. So we go this route, okay? And Lean Startup is the process for you to address the market risk, to go down this route first before you put in too much resource into building the technology or the product. Okay. Should I go on?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, Dina's not here yet. Okay, so those were the concept of Lean Startup, like why, what is it about, how do we think about it, and why do we need to use it? Okay, and now I'm going to talk to you about this thing called a Lean Canvas. Basically, it makes the whole concept much more actionable. It's basically a one-page document for you to organize all the hypotheses you have about your business. Okay, there are 9 main sections, and in some section we have nine boxes. In some boxes we have 2 sections, like for 1, 3, 2. Okay, and there's a link for you to go to the Lean Canvas website. Actually, you can create a Lean Canvas for free using this website. And it's invented by this guy called Ash Maurya. He wrote this book called Running Lean, which is my favorite book on the Lean concept. I read it after the Lean Startup book, and I find that it's really much more structured and actionable for a first-time entrepreneur. And basically, he's trying to combine the Lean Startup thinking with the business model canvas. So the business model canvas was invented by another guy called Alex something, very long name. And then he tried to tweak it, change the boxes and change the section names, and he calls it the Lean Canvas. Okay. Why do we need to use the Lean Canvas? Because if you're doing a startup, you answer to yourself. You don't there's no not a lot of stakeholders for you to submit your plans to say, hey, we need to do these things. And you if you end up writing a business plan, it just takes too much time and it takes a lot of time to update. So when things change, then you don't update it, and then it just becomes an obsolete document and nobody looks at, right? And when the business plan is so long, it's really hard to get feedback because nobody wants to read, right? So getting feedback is so important when you're doing something new. I'll give you one example. When we were working with the JFDI companies, whenever we have a new cohort coming in, we will write a 2-page executive summary for each company, and then we'll present it to our investors to say, in case they want to come in and be a mentor and help the startups, right? And when we send them the 2-page, it's only 2-page executive summary, some of them replied, hey, this is too long, can you send me a Lean Canvas instead? Like, they don't even want to read 2-page. So that gave us the indication that, hey, we really need to make it easy for people to get feedback. Which is why we use the Lean Canvas very, very religiously in our program. And for me, I think it provides a lot of focus. Once you have things written down on the Lean Canvas, whatever you do from that point onward is all about the Lean Canvas, right? If you're trying to do something that's not relevant to what you have set in the Lean Canvas, then it's distraction. You shouldn't even spend time there, right? And also from knowledge point of view, I read a lot books and I read a lot of articles, and I recommend everyone to read more. You find that the link canvas is actually a very good way to organize your knowledge. Like sometimes you read something, you realize, oh, actually this belongs to this part of the business. This belongs to this part of the business. So it helps you to organize knowledge very well. Okay. Sorry?
Can you go back to the link canvas?
Yeah.
But why does it not talk anything about things like the financial projections?
It's a little bit of it. There's a revenue here, and then there's a cost structure here. Sorry, it's too small. And then in key metrics, you can have some revenue information there. Yeah.
So it's like a one-page extract.
Yeah. I will walk you through every box later, and so you get a sense of what needs to be in the box. Oh, okay. We have some hard copies there, right? Oh, here. Yeah. Can you help to distribute? Yeah, sorry. So you can make notes also. Thanks. And I really like the link canvas format because the sections of the link canvas actually corresponds to your pitch deck. It corresponds to your business plan. So in case you need to expand it, at least you have the skeleton here already, right? Because you look at the headings, it's basically, you can look at all the investor pitch deck format. It's pretty much the same section. So it forms the skeleton of other materials that you need to generate. Okay. So I'll start from the first box. Okay. The first box we have two segments. One is two sections. One is customer segment. The next one is early adopters. So in this section, basically you're trying to state whose problem you are solving, and at this time we need to be clear about the differentiation between a customer and a user. Okay, a lot of first-time entrepreneurs, they have this confusion between what's a customer and what's a user. A very simple definition is basically customer will pay you, user only use your product, right? So in let's say Facebook, people like us, we are the users. Then the advertisers are the customers. Okay, so a very simple example like cat food, right? The cat owner is the customer, the cat is the user. So you need to be very clear who is the user and who is the customer. And we want to be a bit more focused on the customer first, because that's the group of people who's going to pay you and give you a business model. Okay. And then in the same box we have the early adopters. Basically, what you want to do here is to so in the customer segment box, probably you can have three segments, right? Three rough segments. So let's say if you have a product like Google Slides, maybe a segment will be teachers, professionals, and freelancers, whatever, right? Then, so in the early adopter section, basically you pick one segment from the previous previous section, and then you try to describe this segment in a more specific manner by using a persona. So this is a subset of the chosen customer segment, and this is a segment that you want to monopolize as quickly as possible. You want to have a niche, right? You want to create a monopoly there. This concept of monopoly is by Peter Thiel. He wrote a book called 0 to 1, highly recommended book. It's this saying, it's better when you start. It's better to have 100 people loving you than to have 10,000 people sort of like you. So you want to find that 100 people as quickly as possible, and you need to develop persona. So developing a persona is a whole separate topic. Basically, you try to describe the demographics and the psychographic of this specific subset. Right? If you search developing persona on Google, you find a lot of templates to help you do that. It's just a document. Okay. So now I move on to the second box: problem and existing alternatives. And I really like this quote: "A problem well stated is a problem half solved." So I always hope that entrepreneurs can have a bit to think more about framing the problem. It's not an easy exercise, but once you get it right, it's really, really helpful. It's very enlightening. More thoughts in this area. So here's some suggestions on how we can frame a good problem. So basically, when you want to frame a problem, you're trying to describe the thing that's blocking the user from their goals. So what's preventing the user from fulfilling their needs? Okay, so then you ask, okay, what are the needs, right? So when you when you develop the user persona, that's when you define what the user needs, right? So you want to describe it like an obstacle, and then it needs to be very specific to the customer segment, right? If it's too vague, it doesn't really help you it's very hard to know where to start. Like for example, if let's say you are building a product for restaurant owners, and then you say, it's very hard to improve sales. Is that too vague? Or is it specific? Very vague, right? Sales is like a problem for everyone. It's like, it's hard to be happy. It's like almost like existential kind of question, right? So you want to avoid the kind of very vague problem statements. It really doesn't help you to move forward. It doesn't help you to zoom in to how do you approach the problem. And as much as possible, you will try to include, when you describe the problem, you try to include the context and situation when this problem is most painful, most urgent, right? And a way to make the problem more specific to the segment is to ask why a few times. Keep asking why until you feel like, this is very specific to this group of people. Like my previous example about problem for restaurant owners, right? It's very hard to improve sales. So ask yourself why. Then maybe the question is, because the business owner doesn't know how to do marketing. Okay, then you say, ask why, or they can't afford to hire a marketing person. So you keep asking why, like what's then you somehow you get to a point where, okay, this is the problem I need to focus on. Okay. To the extent that that problem wouldn't be applicable to a doctor or to another segment, then you know you get it right. And in the same box we have these existing alternatives. Basically, in this box you want to describe how customers solve the problem today, and this can be their existing behaviors, like what are the hacks they're doing to solve the problem. And who are the incumbents who's trying to serve this need as well, and who are the competitors, the new competitors coming in. So it is really important, because our belief is that if the customer is not doing anything about it, probably the problem is not painful enough for them to do something about it. So don't overlook this part. And then there's this very funny tweets by Justin Kan. So he said, most of the time it's because nobody cares about you. It's not about competitors. There's more than 2,000 retweets, so I guess he's right. So pay attention to existing behaviors. That could be your biggest competitor. Okay. And now the center of the box, there are two sections here. I'll start with the unique value proposition. This is the place for you to describe why is it important to solve this problem. It explains the why. Okay, and it also explains the angle benefit for the customer. And when you get it right, it's almost like a marketing headline you can use. Okay, so yeah, this explains the why, and the high level concept still in the center box. We want to describe it in a way that it's like how the product feels like. Sometimes it's also the big vision, and basically you want to have a one-liner that's easy for people to talk about you. So like a lot of people say, I'm the Uber for X, Airbnb for Y. So something like that. The reason why they do that is not because they want to use buzzwords, it's because they want to make it easy for people to describe what they do and what it feels like. For example, we have a JFDI company that's providing storage solution. They're called Vote Dragon. So basically, if you have too much junk in your house, you can just tap a button. They'll send a physical box to your house, and you just put your stuff in and take it away. So their high-level concept is we are the Dropbox for your physical things. So it's immediately people understand what you do. It's easy to talk about you. And then here comes the solution box. So I just want to quickly go back to the problem box. So a lot of times when people write the link canvas for the first time, they kind of cheat. So I explain to you what I mean by cheat. They'll write the solution first, and then they'll write the problem later. This is the solution looking for a problem. They will say, solution means solution. They'll say, oh, you can do X, you can do Y, you can do Z. Then the problem they'll say, oh, cannot do Y, cannot do X, do Z. So don't do that. That's like cheating, right? Do the problem first. Frame the problem properly first. Okay. As much as possible, try to craft your solution hypothesis corresponding to the problems you described earlier. So in your problem section, if you have 3 problems that you describe, then you try to match the solution to the corresponding problem, because it really helps you to explain your product much easier when you do a pitch or when you do a business plan, because people want to be able to see the connection between the problem and the solution, a very clear connection. And basically, the solution explains how you help the user to go from the problem state to the end goal benefit, which is the UVP. How does it bridge the customer from the problem to the unique value proposition? Okay. Channels. This is really, it pains me to talk about this, because a lot of times this is overlooked so much. It's such a small box, but I think it has to be much, like maybe 5 times bigger. It's such an important section about your business, component of your business. So basically in this box, you want to describe the distribution channel. How do you reach customers? And there's so many ways to reach customers. It can be online, offline. You can do outbound. You can do inbound, right? So many ways, right? And Peter Thiel once said, poor distribution is the #1 cause. So now we talk about a lot of issues, right? For him, he thinks that distribution is the biggest bottleneck for startups, right? It's not the product, it's not the timing, it's distribution, okay? He has this concept called the distribution continuum. This is copied out from his book, 0 to 1. And his recommendation is that we should always try to avoid the dead zone. If you're a new startup, nobody knows you, it's really, really hard to target the small businesses, because this is the dead zone. Okay, I'll explain to you why this is the dead zone. Basically, there's just no way to get a product to the customer in a sustainable manner, right? So CAC stands for customer acquisition cost. Right? If you're doing like viral marketing, it's in the range of $1. So I can't give you. He's not giving you very specific numbers, but this is just give you a sense of the order of magnitude. So one important thing is I learned when you're doing a startup, you need to think in orders of magnitude. Don't try to be too specific, because when you try to be too specific, then you are making a lot of assumptions, and it's usually wrong. So just think in tens, hundreds, thousands, right? So if you are like on the viral marketing end, your CAC, the cost of acquiring one customer is around $1. If you do a lot of online ads or content marketing, it's about $100. All right. If you have something in the middle, it probably costs $1,000. And if you're doing sales, you have salespeople going out talking to people. Probably your cost is $10,000 because of the salesperson's salary. And if you're doing complex sales, like government projects, right? Big business, you probably just need to do 1 or 2 deals a year, and the CEO will do the sales. That will cost you maybe 10 million, or maybe it takes a few years to close the deal, right? So this is like the spectrum of cost of acquiring customer. And usually for a business to be sustainable, you want the CLV to be 2 to 3 times the CAC. CLV stands for a customer lifetime value. It basically how much profit or revenue can you generate from one customer, and the guide is healthy when it's 2 to 3 times. So I'm just going to use 3 so that it's consistent, right? So if your cost is $1, then the CLV, you need to be able to make $3 out of the customers. Okay, let's just say the CLV is for 1 year, right? 1 year, $3. And then if it's 100, then you have 300 here, okay? And then if it's 10 million, it has to be 30 million. 10,000 has to be 30,000, right? This is when it gets really awkward, right? Right? If you price a product that's between three, like it will give you a CLV that's between 300 and 30,000. Something in the middle is 3,000, right? Right? And for the business to be sustainable, you need to maintain your CAC to be 1,000. Okay, but for small business, I think for most people actually, there's a psychological barrier for you to make a payment without meeting a real person. Right? $3,000 feels like a big investment without meeting a real person or talking to someone, right? So when we reach that barrier, like in this region, people will just put in your credit card and then sign up like a typical like Dropbox you'll pay, or usually the SaaS services, software as a service, they're a few $100s a month, then you will pay your credit card. But once you get to this range, there's this barrier. Unless you are a very, very well-known company, then people trust you, they'll pay. Right? But if you're not well-known, this is a very awkward situation to be in. And because nobody is gonna pay online using a credit card without meeting someone, you need salespeople. And when once you have salespeople, I don't think they'll do sales for you for $1,000. So in other words, they just know it doesn't mean that small businesses don't want to use technology. The reality is that the price of the product is usually priced in a way in how you sell it, right? So the big companies knows that they need salespeople. That's why they have to price themselves in a way that is sustainable to feed a sales team. And because it's so expensive, only the big companies can afford it. That's why small businesses, they don't use much technology. It's not that they're backward or they don't use, I mean, everyone using smartphone these days, right? You can't say they're backward, right? It's just very difficult to sell it to them without having a salesperson. And if you want a salesperson, this pricing doesn't pay for the salesperson. Okay, so a lot of companies, startups, was like, oh, we will the big guys are charging too expensive. We'll build a cheaper product, and then we'll sell it to small businesses. So that's very dangerous. Okay, some people call this the software valley of death. Like you want to avoid this part. Okay, does it make sense? Sometimes I find it very difficult to because it's like I need to make a lot of assumptions here and there. Okay, thanks. Thanks for bearing with me. So in other words, if you don't think about your channels properly in the beginning, all right, you don't really know how to price your product because it affects your costs, right? And sometimes because of that, you have to make a pivot. You have to change. Okay, we can't sell to small business. We really have to sell to the big companies, right? Let's build an enterprise product, right? Or let's just do a pivot and make it a personal productivity tool or something like that. So thinking about the channel has very dramatic impact on you, your business. So how to find the right channel? Okay, this is one big topic. I can't go through it here, but highly recommend this book called Traction. It introduces you 19 channels to reach customer, and the key message here is that there's no silver bullet, right? That the channel that you are most familiar with might not be the right channel for your business. Like a lot of the young people, they will think that, I have this new idea, I'll just do e-commerce, right? But sometimes the target audience they don't come online, or if you want to sell like online grocery, if someone is like living next to a grocery store, they probably just buy it there. They will not go online, right? So don't have that bias. It's very dangerous to have the bias about the channel, right? And also there's this thing called channel saturation. Even if you find the right channel, it will not be the right channel forever. After some time, it gets busy. Everyone uses the same channel. It gets saturated and becomes expensive. Like some Google AdWords are becoming very expensive. Some Facebook ads are becoming expensive. Everyone is using it. Everyone is targeting the same people. It gets saturated. So basically, you need a system for you to prioritize which are your channels in a non-biased manner, and then you need to run a quick experiment to find the right one, and then you double down, put all your resources into that channel, and until it saturates, then you repeat the process again. So it's a process, it's not a prescription. Right? So the book talks about the process. It's called the Bullseye Framework. And if you want to, and the reality is that when you're building a company or building a startup, you need to spend 50% of effort on developing the channel. Just the channel takes 50% of effort, and then you have another 50% to work on the product. Okay. So when you're a very early stage company, there are four of you, you better make sure that 2 guys are focusing on getting customers and 2 guys are focusing on building a product. You either get customer or you either build product. There's no like in between things, right? Okay, so the channels, yeah. Yeah, yeah.
So, let's say the team of 3,
Mm.
so if let's say the 3 of you are all software developers,
Sorry?
if let's say example, let's say the 3 of you are all software developers,
Mm.
do you say that one of the person has to focus on
Yes, exactly.
focus on the product?
Yep, yep. You need to be very deliberate about putting resources there.
So you're saying that you cannot like maybe in doing the team, can I just swap roles, or is it have to really like stick to one role for the whole?
Well, you can start with someone. If he's not giving the result, then you swap. But it's important to have that dedication there, to make an effort to say we have allocated resources there. And I believe if he's the first one to do it, he's basically he should be the most experienced guy, because you learn from it, right? I don't think the other guys can do it better than him, because the other guys haven't tried doing it. So this is also another important thing. Like just now we said what are the factors of startup success? One of them is team, right? So it's really important that you have diverse skill set that complement each other. And that's the best time to build a network is when you're students. Like talk to people from other faculty. I didn't do that enough when I was in engineering school. So yeah. So you need to have people who are just out there talking to people or doing marketing. And later on you understand why. When you apply the lean startup concept, it's possible to develop your channel even before your product is ready. Because you see these days there's a lot of people having like landing page, right? So, we're launching soon, sign up to get updates. That's a way of getting your distribution even before your product is out. Okay, like Dropbox in the beginning, it was just a video. They put it on some forum, and then a lot of people liked it, and a lot of people shared it, and they got a lot of emails. And they only launched a product like 1 year later, right? So actually, if you want me to prioritize, I would say if you want to be very deliberate about this, is you even want to develop the audience first before the product, right? Now this is let's go to the revenue box, okay? The money stuff. We want to keep it really simple. We just want to have a very simple pricing model so that it's easy for you to model the customer lifetime value. You have to make an assumption that this is the version that most people will use. Right? If you sell chicken rice, you assume chicken rice, right? You don't think about the noodles and whatever. So basically you want to make a projection of how much a user will spend paying you over a period of time. A good gauge is 18 months to 2 years. If you do like 5 years, 10 years, then you are being too aggressive with your forecast, because we assume that people don't stay with you forever. Like 2 years is a good gauge. And actually, if a lot of times after 2 years, you might be launching a different product, and then people will upgrade, right? So and it calls for a different forecast again. So don't over project this. Don't go more than 2 years. This is there's a link here to help you think about your lifetime value. There's five ways to build a 100 million business. Okay, so basically this axis, they call it ARPA. It's called average revenue per account. I find that it's pretty much same as customer lifetime value, right? But they have it in years. Okay, But it's basically the same thing. And if you make some assumption about your APA, then this is how many customers do you need. And then if you go to this link, they will give you case studies about the different business they're operating in this different region. Okay. 5 ways to build 100 million business. Okay. So next will be the core structure, number 7. And here, I know this is the box where you really focus on the customer acquisition cost, because that's the number that's most uncertain. I mean, because if you spend time thinking about rent, salary, hosting, it doesn't really help you, because these are things that are very easy to estimate. So put your attention on CAC, because this is the hardest one to get it right. And this is the number that really makes or break your business. It determines the sustainability of your business. Right? You don't want to be losing money for every transaction. Like, for example, one of the reasons, you heard of Private 3D, right? They did a successful crowdfunding campaign, and they realized that if they ship a product, they're losing money. That's why they decided to cancel the project. But for them, it's because it's hardware. I think the cost is more on the manufacturing side. But if you're software, the marketing cost is the one that's going to break you. Okay, yeah, you can list your fixed costs and other variable costs, like software development costs or so all these upfront costs, you can state it down. And if you have a very compelling business idea, basically the reason you raise money is to finance the upfront costs. But the VCs, before they finance you, they want to know that your CAC is healthy. If the CAC is not healthy, there's no point paying for your upfront cost. Okay. Next is key metrics. So this is basically a set of numbers for you to measure the health of a business. I recommend 3 things. One is your growth rate. You can be a weekly growth rate or monthly growth rate. If you are very early, I recommend weekly is better. Because things are changing very quickly, and you try to aim for a 5% compounded growth rate. So if you click on this link, it will bring you to a very good article about growth rate. It's by Paul Graham. He says that, so the title of the article is called Startups Equals Growth, right? His idea is that you have to see growth as a constraint, not a goal. If your startup is not growing consistently, something is wrong, you got to fix it. So use growth rate. So commit to a growth rate and use it as a constraint, and then you know that you're on track or not. So I give you an example. It's for me, I think it's also a very good way to avoid premature optimization. Okay, let's say we define a growth metric. Okay, so define a growth. To have a growth rate, to commit to a growth rate, you need to define a growth metric. Then the question is, what's your key growth metric? So if let's say you are running Uber, key growth metric would be number of rides per week. Okay, let's just use that. And let's say for this week you have done 100 rides, 100 transactions, and we say we will commit ourselves to a 10% growth rate. Okay, week on week. Okay, don't underestimate this. 10% compounded week on week for 1 year is a lot. You probably grow your business by 3 to 5 times. I can't remember the mathematics, but if you do that, you'll see that it's at least a 10 times increase over 1 year. So if I've done 100, a 10% growth for next week will be 110. I just need to do 10 more. Then you think, so all your energy is about how do I get the extra 10, right? You don't do like a big partnership with another company. Like when you usually do a partnership, okay, it can get you a lot of users, but it takes a lot of time to nail down the deals, to sign a contract, and it's like things are not moving. So, but you want to see the result in 1 week. You ask yourself, what's the quickest way for me to get the extra 10 transactions in 1 week? Just go to a taxi stand and tell people about Uber, right? Hire an intern to do it, right? And then so this prevents you from premature optimization, right? And when you are up to, like, let's say 1,000 transactions per week, then the 10% will be 100. So now you have to change your strategy. How do I get the extra 100? Maybe extra 100 is still possible to do it manually. Just get interns and whatever. let's say you're 10,000, right? The 10% is 1,000. So maybe you need to be a bit more strategic there. You need to do a lot online, more scalable marketing channels, right? So use the growth rate as a constraint on what's the right thing to do. And things are not growing, something is wrong. You got to figure out what's wrong. Another key metric is the ratio between the customer lifetime value and the CAC. Again, I recommend 2 to 3 times. It's a healthy ratio. Third one is the payback period. How fast can you pay back the CAC? So again, this is related. So okay. So for example, it takes $10 to acquire a user, all right? And if you are able to make $5 from the customer every month, the payback period is 2 months. Does it make sense? Okay, so this is the division you do in your head to figure out the payback period. And a healthy payback period will be 6 to 9 months. All right, I've even heard some investors saying that if you can prove that your payback period is 6 months, they'll fund you forever. They say that, right? Because it proves it's a very healthy business. They will fund you so that you can keep expanding and keep growing, right? So this is basically the old school way of thinking about payback period is the cash flow, okay? But at a unit, and we call this unit economics. You are always measuring per customer, right? Which is why you see the word units here, okay? Yeah.
So in terms of growth rate, does that depend on business nature as well?
Yeah. It's a good question. So to commit to a growth rate, you have to define your growth metric, and a growth metric really depends on your business. So like Uber, you do transactions, right? If you are a file sharing app, then you track number of shares, right? If you are enterprise sales, there's no way to close a sale in a week. Then you try to measure something that's top of the funnel, maybe number of demos or number of leads. And that something has to be growing at a rate, then you can project. Because if top of the funnel is not growing, there's no sales, right? So that's a good question. So just to reiterate, management consulting for corporate. So like the P&L statement, profit loss, cash flow, balance sheet. Those are for big companies to measure the health of business. If you're a startup, very early stage startup, you focus on unit economics. I hope that answers the question about forecasts. Just now some people asked about financial numbers. Yeah. User conversion funnel. Yeah, I can do a quick one there. Yeah.
A funnel, right? You start from the top line. I mean, in the case of sales, it will be leads, conversions, and your final customers, right? So just to provide more context to what Kai said just now. So in the case of, let's say, an e-commerce website, so this will be your number of ad views, for example, and then ad clicks would mean your traffic, and then when you go down, it will mean your conversion, people who click on a certain product. And then people buy the product, people who repurchase the product, people who recommend their friend, you funnel down. And why it's a funnel is because usually you have the most ad views. You have say 1 million ad views, which would go down to maybe 100,000 clicks, which would go down to maybe 10,000 people clicking on a certain product, so on and so forth. So in case you're wondering what funnel Kai was talking about, this is the funnel.
Yeah. Thanks, Kang Liang. So, okay, last box, section 9. This is the hardest one. And it's okay to leave it empty when you're doing this exercise for the first time. Unfair advantage. So, basically, this is a section for you to articulate why you're different, why is it that you can do this and someone can't do this, and how do you have long-term defensibility in this business model, this product. And if you have, it's for you to highlight your domain expertise. If you have a scientist in your team, has done a PhD research on, like maybe only 100 people in the world know about this subject, then you have some domain expertise there. And how defensible your product is. Okay, product defensibility, usually there are a few things. Core technology, proprietary technology that cannot be copied easily. So it's maybe a special algorithm or a special material you invented. So this core tech usually comes from domain expertise. They are related. If you are a typical software product or internet product, you really cannot say that your code is your core tech. Oh, sorry, yeah.
What if you are offering commodity, but you produce it in a different way, but you can't really make it proprietary?
Yeah, which is why I'm telling you, I'm trying to propose different ways to these are all different ways for you to articulate your defensibility and articulate your unfair advantage. So core tech is just one way, yeah. So if you are a internet company, internet products, as long as you can describe it, you can build. There's really no such thing as like proprietary, unless you have special processing algorithm. So for that kind of product, you want to have a strategy to build network effects. Network effects means the value of the product or value of the system increases as you get more users, right? So, like for example, the telephone. More people use telephone means there's more value. I can call someone very easily. If every time I have to check who has a telephone, then the product has no value to me, right? So it also explains why WhatsApp is better than iMessage. Like Apple is such a strong company. Why WhatsApp is so powerful, right? It's network effects because most people use WhatsApp. Explains why Dropbox is better than iCloud. Right? Stronger network effects. Everyone is already on Dropbox. It's easier to share with Dropbox. Another way to build defensibility is to develop stickiness in the product. Stickiness means as the user uses the product, so it's more specific to the user. You don't really talk about network. So as the user uses the product, the user gets more value out of it. So the perceived value grows over time for the user. A few examples would be like, let's say you use Spotify, then you've been curating a lot of lists, and then you've been liking some of the songs, So as you spend time in the product, the recommendation become better and better and better and better. Then it's very sticky for you. So now Spotify is the music player for you, right? Another way to understand stickiness is to think about the perception of value. Like for example, if next to your office open a new burger store, right? And the first time you tried it, it's really good, right? And then if you go eat it every week, then you get sick of the burger after some time. So the perceived value drops over time. So that's why the restaurant business is very tough, right? And then there's another kind of business where the perceived value stays the same over time. It will be like, for example, you subscribe to magazine. Every month you get new content, fresh content. So the perceived value is the same. And the sticky product is one that will grow over time. Like for example, I'm a big Evernote user. The more I use Evernote, the more value I get out of Evernote, and I'm stuck to it. Right? The perceived value grows over time. Okay, and then some questions you can ask is like why the incumbents cannot do what you're doing. A few examples. If you look at Airbnb versus hotels, the reason Airbnb is growing so quickly is because for them to improve their business, they just need to acquire more hosts. For a hotel to increase business, they need to build more hotels. Right, so there's no way for hotels to acquire hosts and grow the business. They have to do some planning. They need to make sure they have enough money to build a new hotel. Then they can improve the capacity, right? So incumbents cannot do the same. Back to the WhatsApp example. Why is it that WhatsApp is better than iMessage? Anybody want to make a guess? Okay, so WhatsApp is better because it's cross-platform. It supports both Android and iOS, and it used to support BlackBerry. So it's cross-platform. And then the question is why wouldn't Apple want to be cross-platform? right? I think the answer is that because Apple as a company, the way they solve the not enough people using iMessage problem is to sell more iPhones. If they do cross-platform, it's trying to they're shooting themselves in the foot, like, or they're afraid that they can't sell enough iPhones, then Android has the market share, that's why I'm doing cross-platform. So it's not strategic for them to be cross-platform. They want to remain close, and if they want to win, they sell more iPhones. All right. Same thing for iCloud. They've solved the problem by selling more iOS device. All right. So that's a way to think about how incumbents cannot do the same thing. And then the last thing will be branding. And of course, in the beginning, you don't have branding. So a very simple way to describe branding is basically branding is reputation from customers. So I don't take the branding consultancy kind of branding. I think it's basically reputation that you created because of happy customers, and it's developed over time. All right. So these are the things for you to think about. Unfair advantage. It's not easy. I agree. On hindsight, it's always very clear. When you're doing it, it's not easy. So a few resources to recommend for you to think about developing unfair advantage is to read the book 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel, and then there's a video called that talks about what kind of company makes a VC excited. So go check it out. Should we have a break here?
Yep.
Food is here, right?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. We can end any time.
Okay.
Yeah. So we can always go into questions, or I can keep going.
How about everyone grab a packet of food and then try just go on?
Yeah. I'm not hungry. I can go on. Yeah. I'm serious. Yeah. Yeah. I'm serious. I'm not hungry. Yeah. I just need to drink some.
Guys, go grab a food, come back
Yeah.